everyone, my name is Elsa. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do my June wrap-up. So I'm super late. I'm really sorry about that. And I have 1,000 books to talk about. At first I wanted to do a two-part video, but you know what? We're going to squeeze everything into this video. I participated in June in the Olympics readathon and it was so fun. I loved it. It was amazing. But I have a competitive streak. And that's why I went a bit over the top because I checked my stats and I have never read so many books in a month. Like the only time I did was in August last year, but only because I had a 1 month vacation, and that's why I could read so many books because I was in vacation. I was working and I still managed to read 30 books. So yeah, a bit crazy. That being said, many of these books were either graphic novels, mangas, or novellas. So that's why, you know, I managed to read so many. But still, that's impressive. I'm proud of myself. Went a bit crazy there. And this is going to be hard to wrap up, you know, efficiently and quickly. So let's get on with it. The first one I read was Lore Olympus. So this is a retelling of the love story between Persephone and Hades. And this was supposed to be everything I want in this world because I love Persephone and Hades, I love Greek gods, and the drawings are just gorgeous. And I thought I would love it, and I didn't. For several reasons. The first one is that it's extremely slow. Like, I get it because it's the webtoon format, you want to, you know, drag the story a little bit, but it was way too slow for me. The romance wasn't, you know, progressing at all. Content warning for this one for rape. I didn't know about that, and given this graphic novel, it was kind of shocking and I just hated it. This book is both extremely fluffy and cute and also extremely hard, and the Greek gods in this series actually act like the Greek gods in mythology, so they're always cheating, lying, they're just all bastards, and that's why the two main characters are okay, but I just didn't connect with them, and all the other characters are just awful people, and so I didn't want to read about them. And their story is kind of important, like the Persephone and Hades is kind of, it's only a part and all the rest is about the other gods, and I couldn't care less about all the other gods that are just like awful. So no, not for me. The next one I read was the second volume in My Annoying Senpai. This is so cute and romantic. This is basically very short stories about these two co-workers that are working with each other, and he's extremely tall, she's extremely small, she looks like a child but she's not, and so they're kind of blind to their own feelings to each other, and so it's this kind of cute little series, and it's not amazing, but it's really fun to read about. The next one is Check Please, volume 2. So I read the first one and I gave it 4 stars. It was a bit generous of me because I thought objectively it was good, but I didn't enjoy myself as much as I would have liked. Like, maybe it was more of a 3.5 stars, and this one I liked even more. It was a 3 stars for me, and I totally get why so many people love it. I just can't keep myself from comparing it to Heartstopper, and it's just not as good as Heartstopper. And the characters are really great, especially the main one, the main character Vinci. I love him with all my heart, but the love interest, I'm not really crazy about him because we don't know that much about him, and so the romance to me was a bit not insta-lovey, but you don't see much of it. Like, you can see how they fell in love. The thing is, they fell in love kind of off-page, and so I didn't, you know, get the love story I wanted from this book. There's also a lot of text, like really a lot, and so it's kind of heavy to read, even though it's a graphic novel, and the structure is a bit kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's a bit confusing what's happening, etc. So that's why I don't love it, but it's still really good, and I'm sure many people will love it. Next we have Heartstopper. So this is the 4th volume. I think everybody heard about Heartstopper. It's just amazing. I love this series so much. Gave it 5 stars like all the others before. It's just my favorite graphic novel. And then we have Blue Flag. So this is a manga series I had started a few years ago, but I hadn't finished it. And this month I read the entire series. So the 8 volumes I read this month, and this was incredible. Like, this is one of my favorite series of all time. It's just incredible. I highly recommend it. So I can't tell you much about the story, just that you follow these 3 characters. You have this girl, Futaba, she's the girl on the cover, and she's in love with Toma, the big boy on the cover. And he used to be best friends with Taichi, who is the last boy on the cover. And so Futaba asks Taichi if he can help her basically try to get Toma to go out with her. And so that's the start of the story, but the story expands a lot. So this is not the entire story of the series, and this is so good. And this series is about love and friendship and just everything, and it's so beautiful. The drawings are just gorgeous. The characters are my babies. I love them all so much. This series is both funny at times and extremely emotional at others, and there is LGBTQ+ representation. The fact that one of the main characters in the story is gay is actually a big part of the story, and so yeah, it's just incredible, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Next we have Ace of Spades. So this is a young adult thriller that just recently came out, and I loved it. We are following two students that are going to this elite high school that is only attended by the sons and daughters of extremely famous and rich people, and they are the only two black students in the entire school, and they don't know each other because they have very different personalities and lives, because the girl is extremely popular. She's actually the president of the school council, and he's a bit kind of in the background. He doesn't have many friends, and he's not bullied or anything, but he's just kind of invisible in this school. And at the beginning of this book, the two get harassed by this mysterious ace that keeps sending messages to the entire school, telling everyone in the school about their secrets. And so both of them kind of join forces to discover who is behind Ace and try to put an end to it. So this was extremely good. I really loved it. What I loved about it, the characters are extremely well developed, like they are really complex, and you have the two point of views from each one, and really you can feel the difference between the two of them. So they're extremely good characters. They're not perfect, either of them, but they're really relatable, and so you really root for them. The writing is very good, the pacing is good, maybe a bit slow in the beginning and middle, but still very, you can still fly through it. There is tension, like real tension in this one, and the plot twist was amazing. Like I really loved it. This book also tackles a lot of social issues like homophobia, racism, classism, and it's so well done. So for the social issues and the message behind this book, just amazing. There are only a few things that prevented me from giving it 5 stars. One of them was that a few things here and there weren't totally resolved, and that bothered me a bit. There's also love stories in this book, and I really couldn't care less about the love stories, even though they are a small part. I just didn't care for them. But still, it's a very good book, and I highly recommend it. The next one was a huge surprise, and this is One of Us is Lying. This is also a young adult thriller, and I fell completely in love with it. And I didn't think I would love it so much. Like, I thought I would like it, but I didn't think I would love it so much. Like, this one became one of my favorite books of all time. And the thing is, it was completely different from what I was expecting. So the story is about these 4 students that are all stereotypes in their own way. Like you have the jock, you have the smart one, you have the criminal, and you have the popular girl. And all 4 of them are sent to detention with one other guy, and during detention, this other guy dies. And obviously all of them are suspects in his murder because they were the only one in the room when he died. So I thought that this book would be about, the mystery behind the death of this guy and finding out which one of these 4 killed him and how they did it. This wasn't it at all. Like, this is marketed as a mystery, and I get why, because there is this mystery at the center of the plot, because it sets everything into motion, but the mystery is only a little part of the book. Like, it's not that you don't care about it, and not that you don't care how it's solved. Like, I really liked the mystery part of this book, but it's not what the entire book is about. Like, the entire book reads more like a contemporary. You have the 4 point of views of these 4 characters, and all of them I fell completely in love with. Like, these characters were so good. I just love them so much, and there's a beautiful love story. I loved it so much, and all these characters have a character arc. Where they start and where they end is completely different, and I love that so much. I love the character arcs of all of them. It was so good. This entire book is showing you how they are so much deeper than everyone thinks they are. They're not only the criminal, the smart girl, etc. Like, they are so much more, and this was just amazing. And if you've seen the movie Breakfast Club, I really like this movie, but to me it's just lacked this little push to be one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I really loved the concept of it, because it's really similar to this, to the concept of this one without the mystery. And in this movie you see how, although they are so different on the surface, they become friends during detention. It's not during detention in this book because it's over a few weeks, but they do become friends, although they are so much different. And to me, it was this movie done even better. Like, it was amazing. I loved it so much. I highly recommend it. Alright, next one, I'm going to be quick about it. It was ACOTAR. So, you know, A Court of Thorn and Roses. And it's complicated because if you've seen my anti-TBR tag, you know that I don't like Sarah J. Maas's writing and books. Like, this is a personal preference. I just don't like them. They're not for me. I didn't plan on reading any other books ever again. I read a few books in the From Glass series. I just didn't like them, didn't want to go back to this series. And I didn't want to read ACOTAR. But as you might know, I work as a publisher and sometimes I have to read books I don't really want to read. And this month I had to read for work the entire ACOTAR series. If you love Sarah J. Maas books, you might think I was the luckiest girl on earth. And that's right, I have the best job on earth. But I personally didn't want to read this series and I had to. So I had to read the 5 books in the series and I hated all of them. I gave all of them 2 stars. They're not for me. Let's just stop there because I wouldn't even have read them if it wasn't for work. So if you love this series, good for you, I'm happy for you, they're just not for me. Moving on to Daughter of Smoke and Bone. This series is the other one written by Laini Tailor, and as you might know, I'm crazy about Strange the Dreamer. This is one of my favorite series of all time, and because of that, I had huge expectations for this series. It was okay, it was good, but I was a bit disappointed because I didn't love it as much as Strange the Dreamer. It was still good. So the story is basically taking place in Prague in our time, and we're following this girl who was raised her entire life by this chimera. So he's half sheep, half human, and he's a kind of a sorcerer, and he's basically trading thieves, human thieves or animal thieves, for wishes, like a genie. And so all her life she has been raised by him and she had to work for him, even though there were a lot of mysteries behind the trade of this chimera, because he never wanted to answer any questions about her. Like, he never wanted to tell her who her parents are, why he's the one raising her, what he's doing with the thief, why he needs them so much. He's never answering any of her questions, and so she's just working for him in the dark. And one day, these angels come to Earth, and they're clearly in conflict with the chimera that raised her, and she kind of gets mixed in everything. There are things I really loved about this book. So first, the audiobook is really good. I highly recommend it. And the writing is beautiful. I really love the world building. Like, the world building was phenomenal. I loved it so much, and just everything about that was amazing. And you know, you have this mystery going on. It's not really a mystery, but you have so many questions about the main character, about the chimeras, about the angels, and I loved how it played out and how it was revealed, and all the answers I got, I was so excited for. Like I said, world building exceptional, and I really loved the kind of mystery thing going on. So these were all amazing. The setting as well was just phenomenal. I loved seeing Prague this way, and we also go to another world, and this other world as well. Like, it's phenomenal. I love it so much. And I also loved our main character. She's very complex, and I just really related to her and really liked her. So all of that was amazing. There are a few things that prevented me from really loving it. The first one was the main love interest. You can see he's deep under the surface, but we don't see it much in this book. Like, by the end of it, I still didn't know anything about him, and that's what frustrated me a bit, because you're supposed to love him and you don't have any information about him. Like, how are you supposed to care? So I didn't really care about him. The other thing was the love story. It was extremely insta-lovey, and you know me, I hate insta-love, so there was an explanation for it, and this explanation could have made all the difference. Like, I was so there for it. It's one of my favorite tropes of all time, but I can't tell you without spoiling it. But I love this trope so much. But the way it was done left me unsatisfied. It didn't resolve the insta-love problem as much as I wanted it to, and that's just, you know, a bit disappointing. So yeah, these two things prevented me from really loving it, but it was still very good, and I'm going to try to read the second book in the series this month. Alright, next one was The Unadoptables. This is a historical fiction middle grade, and this was one of the biggest disappointments of the year, so I talked about it in my media freak out tag if you want to see. But yeah, I really hated it, and I was so disappointed because I thought this would be a 5 stars, and it clearly wasn't. It had everything going for it because the premise of this book was everything I love. Like, you have these 5 children that were all raised together as siblings in an orphanage. The life in the orphanage is just awful, and one day they all escape, trying to find the parents of one of them. And I was sure I would love them because you have found family, you have, you know, this evil orphanage thing going on that I love it as well. And in the blurb, it was said that there was going to be pirates and a lot of adventures. Very misleading blurb. Very misleading. Like, the beginning of this book was really good because it was everything it was supposed to be. And then they escape of the orphanage and they go to this place and they just stay there for the entire book and nothing happens, basically. Oh yeah, they just do a puppet show. Yeah, and that's the book. No pirates, no action whatsoever, no mystery, no anything. It was so boring. And you don't even have the character development I was waiting for, because these 5 kids are extremely generic. Like, one of them, the main character, is a bit more developed than the others, but the other ones are just cliches I read 1,000 times about, with nothing special about them. The relationship between the 5 of them too was really disappointing because it was just, you know, not developed enough. You don't see any scenes where you really feel like they love each other and are real siblings, you know? They're just going on this thing together, that's it. So yeah, really disappointing. The next one was Vote for Effie. So this was a middle grade I had to read for work. It's extremely generic and not that interesting. You have this girl, she wants to become president of the student council and she does a campaign for it with a few guys she met at the school that she barely knows. I gave it 3 stars, but it was extremely generous. I just did it because I can see how it could be appealing for children, but honestly it was kind of shallow. Like, the story is extremely basic, almost nothing happens, it's quite boring, the characters don't have any personality. Yeah, that's not it. Like, that's just, you know, something you can enjoy when you're 10 and that's it. You can't read it past 12. The next one was Nevermoor, and this one was so good. I just loved it. It was amazing. So I highly recommend the audiobook for this one. It was fantastic. This story is taking place in a fantasy world, and you follow this girl, Morrigan, who is cursed. So she's a cursed child, which means that she will die on her 11th birthday, and everything wrong that happen in their world is blamed on her. And so on the day she's supposed to die, she's actually taken to another world called Nevermoor by a very mysterious and strange and, you know, kind of all over the place guy called Jupiter North. He becomes her guardian and she starts living in his hotel with a lot of, you know, creatures, etc. It's so fun. And he wants her to join this wondrous society. It's a very elite school for these people that have very specific gifts. And so he wants her to join, but you can't join that easily. You have to go through a series of trials. And so the first book is about her taking the trials. This was so good. I love the characters. I love the world building. This world was so good. Like, and I just started the second book, and the world building is even more extending. Like, it's almost on the level of Harry Potter. Like, it's so good. The trials are so well done. Like, every trial was just so good, so entertaining, so fun, so everything. This was just amazing and I loved it so much. Alright, next one was Ghochar. This is a translated book written by an Indian author, and this is literary fiction. So this was a huge disappointment. It is extremely short, like maybe not even 200 pages, but it was so boring. It felt like 100 years. Like, nothing happens. I can't even tell you what the story is about, because you basically follow this family that used to be poor and now is rich. But nothing happens in this book. Like, maybe in the 12 last pages, but it's implied. Like, you don't even know what happened. You just think something might have happened, but it's not even a mystery or a thriller or anything. Like, there's no tension, there's not anything happening. The characters are all awful. Like, I hated all of them. I don't get the point of this book. There's no message, no story, no plot, no characters. So next one was A Bear, Otter and the Kid. So this is a story written by T.J. Klune, who also wrote The House in the Syrian Sea and The Lightning Struck Heart. As you might know, I love these 2 books, so I thought I would love Bear, Otter and the Kid as well, and it was a bit of a disappointment. Like, there were some good things and some things I wasn't crazy about. It's a romance with a male-male relationship, and my main problem was with the structure. Like, basically you have these 2 guys that meet again at the beginning of the book, but one of them is the older brother of the other one's best friend. So they've known each other their entire life, and so they meet again at the beginning, but it's not the first time they met. Like, they already know each other, and basically they kinda fall in love, but extremely quickly. And it's not insta-love because they already knew each other. The problem is we don't have enough flashbacks. You have barely no flashbacks at all, and so you're supposed to believe that they know each other and that they've been friends for many years. The problem is you don't see it in the book. Like, it's all off page, and I wanted to see that. I wanted to see them grow closer. I wanted to see them become friends and fall in love with each other, and you don't see that. Because even at the beginning of the book, they already had a relationship before, so it just was kind of messed up, and so they kind of start again at the beginning of the book, and you're like, it feels like you're, going aboard the train that has already left the station for a while. That made the story not as romantic as I would have liked, and because of that, the character arc wasn't as good as I wanted, and the character development wasn't as good as I wanted, and then they get together, and they get together around 30% of the book, and then I was so bored because nothing happened. Like, that's a personal preference, but I hate when the characters in a love story get together extremely soon in the book, because what's the point then? Especially if the love story is the main focus of the book, because then what are you going to do? Like, the only thing that can happen is them fighting, arguing, miscommunication, breaking up, and then getting back together, and that's what always happens, and that just bores me to death. I really liked the first 30% of the book because it was still romantic, and the two main characters were still extremely cute, and one of them was raising his little brother, and so that was really cute as well, and there is found family, etc. So all these were good, but not as well done as I would have hoped. And after the 30% mark, I just completely lost interest in the book. It wasn't bad, but it was just not the kind of book I enjoy. And so if you don't mind when the characters are together very early in the book, you won't mind, but I minded. So yeah. Next was The Haunting of Tram-car. So this one was really good, but not as good as everyone said it was. And my main problem was that it was too short. It's kind of a mystery novel, but set in this fantasy Cairo. It's Cairo in 1919, but with fantasy elements and kind of a steampunk vibe. So the world building was amazing. I love it so much. Like, this world is everything. The characters are quite interesting, but I didn't get to know them enough to really love them. And same for the mystery novel. It was extremely predictable and not that interesting, and that's because it was so short. Like, you can't do that many things in like 130 pages. And so it was, for such a short amount of pages, it was really good. Like, I love the setting, love the pacing, the mystery novel was interesting, the characters were good, like everything was good, okay, but not over the top amazing because it was so short. And that's why I'm really looking forward for the next book in the series, because it's a full novel, and so with more pages I'm sure this will be amazing, but this time it was just too short to be anything extraordinary. And last one was The Goblin Emperor. So if you've seen my media freakout, you know that this became one of my favorite books of all time, and this is definitely one of the best books I read so far this year. This was incredible, and it was such a surprise. Completely fell in love. So this won't be for everyone. Let me explain. If you love it, you will love it with all your heart, and if it's not for you, you will know really quick. So let me explain. So it's taking place in this fantasy world, but the fantasy elements are really low. Like, it's really low on the fantasy. The only thing really fantasy about it is that you have goblins and elves. That's it. And so goblins are black and elves are white. That's important in the story because our main character is half goblin, half elf, and he's the fourth son of the elvish emperor. And so basically his father hated his wife because she was a goblin and because of lot of reasons, but he hated his wife, and so he exiled her and his son when he was really little, almost out of the country. And so they lived, secluded all their life, and then his mother died and he was all alone at maybe 8 or something. And then he was raised by this awful cousin of his that was supposed to raise him, but he was just an awful guy, and so he was raised alone with this awful guy at basically the end of the earth. But one day the airship that was carrying his father and his 3 other brothers crashed, and so everyone on board died, and so he became the next emperor just because everyone else was dead. And so he moves to the court, having lived all his life with like 3 other people and having received almost no education. And so he comes to this court that is extremely hostile to him, and he starts reigning. And this was so good. So why you might not love it and why it's so amazing. So why you might not love it is really heavy on the political intrigue. Like, it's almost nothing but political intrigue. And so if you love political intrigue, you will love this book. If you don't like political intrigue and you want a lot of action scenes and mysteries and things like that, just forget it. Like, this won't be for you. The other thing is that it's really complex in the sense that you have a lot of characters, so many characters that you have actually a glossary at the end with all the characters. Like, there's at least 100 of them. They're not all as important, but there are a lot of characters, and they all have extremely complex names, and you have to understand who is allied with whom and who is related, you know, to whom. So it's complicated. You have to, you know, be aware a bit of that. And so that's the two things. Like, if that's too much for you, just know in advance. But if you don't mind these two things, I actually love them. The things that are amazing about this book is, first, the main character. The main character, Maya, is one of the best characters I've ever read about. Like, he stole my heart. He's just a cinnamon roll, but extremely smart and just cunning and everything, but also so good and just wanting to do good for the people, even though everyone hates him. And he's just phenomenal. Like, if you love Laszlo from Strange the Dreamer, you will love Maya. He's everything. So yeah, Maya is my baby. All the other characters are so well developed and well done. You also have extremely good relationships. He has a relationship with his secretary and his 4 bodyguards. It's so good. Like, they are with him almost non-stop. Like, they sleep in the same room as him, and they are always with him. And so the 6 of them, it was just, oh, I love it so much. It's so good. So yeah, that's that. The political intrigue was phenomenal. It's considered like a hope punk. I will put the name here. I think it's hope punk. Like, the principle is that it's stories that are supposed to be inspiring, and that's with amazing characters that are just good people that want to do good. It's not always happy and fluffy in this book. Like, there are really sad moments and there is tension, and life definitely isn't perfect for Maya, but it's still hopeful and, you know, good, and you're smiling a lot reading it. That's the kind of book this is, and it's just so perfect. And I loved it with all my heart. So yeah, that's it for this wrap up. It was a bit long. I'm really sorry about that. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've read any of the books I talked about, even if you don't, you know, agree with me, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. See you around, guys.